There's some very, very successful people that have a well-balanced life, that are financially successful, that are very healthy, that have a great family, that crush life, that take mushrooms every day. When it becomes legal, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised on how many people actually do mushrooms. They just make everything better.
Welcome to the Multiverse, where we believe that mushrooms can actually save the world. Each week, we'll be meeting with thought leaders and experts to extract the best insights and stories across everything from functional fungi, psychedelic medicine, and so much more. Thanks for listening. Step into the multiverse with us.
Okay, hi guys. Welcome back to another episode of Into the Multiverse. Today we have my friend Devon Levesque on the podcast. And I'm so excited to talk to you. I think this is a really exciting moment for me because every time we get a chance to connect, you're on a mountain or doing some crazy extreme thing. And by way of introduction, I looked on your LinkedIn because I was like, how do you even describe what Devon does? So this is what's at least listed on LinkedIn. I don't know if this is a conclusive intro, but you are a multi-potentialite for sure. If you've never seen the TED Talk, go look that up. You do a lot of things. You are an investor, a founder, a keynote speaker, a marketing expert, CPG brand advisor, startup and small business consultant, adventure seeker, and you bear called a marathon.
Did.
So to start, you have such a unique story, and I'd love to kind of take everyone back 8 years ago-ish when everything began. Close the gap. You know, you were working in nightlife. How did you land here?
Yeah, that was a funny time in my life. Nightlife. I dropped out of college. I was a junior. I was on a full scholarship playing sports, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. There's boundaries. And so I dropped out when I was a junior. I was like, I probably have 10 credits left. I dropped out, and I was already bartending in college to make some money. And I was in nightlife. Got this job. I was managing this club, and then I took a leap. I was like 23 years old at the time, and I'm like, I know it all. Because I worked in the nightlife for 3 years. I'm like, I know it all. I can go do my own restaurant, and I started doing it. But one of my partners, it just like wasn't a good fit, and so there was a big falling out, and it kind of left me like with nothing. I was like, shoot, like, what am I gonna do now? And I ended up going on unemployment. I was like, I had nothing. I was just like, I was at, ground zero. And I was like, what can I do that I really like? And I actually haven't told this story too much, but when I was on unemployment for, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, I would like take my morning to like just go to a coffee shop and meet new people and just like people watch for a little bit. And I sat down with this one guy, and he's like, dude, just do something you love. He's like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just do something you really like. And he's like, what do you like doing? What do you do every day, no matter what? And I'm like, well, I work out every day. I love like being healthy. I've worked out my whole life. And he's like, why don't you help people do that? And I'm like, can't make a real living doing that. And so I started using social media to like put some of my stuff out, and clients started hitting me up that were customers from the restaurant industry and nightclub, because I just networked, right? And so people started paying me for, I guess, my time in health and wellness. And then social media played a big role, because they would take, when I say they, like Barstool and ESPN and SportsCenter, they would take my videos and just blast them out. So my following started growing. More and more brands would reach out. Dev, we want to sponsor you. And I always try to be as authentic as possible with anything I do. And I didn't like the concept of brand paying you and saying, hold this up and say that you like it. And so I kind of flipped the script, and I would say, well, what if I become an investor in your company? What if, I help advise, I have some business background, whatever. And so I started essentially trading my time for a little equity in brands, maybe putting a little cash in that I saved up, and then just start building a portfolio. But yeah, I never knew it would come to, okay, now having, a bunch of amazing brands like yours, under the portfolio that we help market and advise for. And, it's probably been maybe 3 years since I've trained people, but that was fun. That was a cool era. But now, helping brands, up and coming, charities, things that are actually helping humans out in the right way, especially in health and wellness, because that's what I come from. I love being healthy, whether it's your gut or your mind or whatever. So yeah, now, that's kind of how the transition went. And now that's what we do. We just invest in companies and then help market and connect them with the right people to help grow them as fast as possible and get the word out. You can kind of look at us as an investor plus a microphone.
And for people that don't know, us is DML, which is your investment group,
Yep.
DML Holdings.
Yeah, the DML group. Yeah.
DML Group. So first of all, you need to go back and find the guy, whoever was in that coffee shop that gave you this advice.
I remember his name's Ashley. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was actually a trainer. Yeah.
Okay, so you do know who this person is.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're still connected.
yeah.
I was like, some random angel just gave you this.
I haven't talked to him in a long time, but that advice always stuck. I was like, yeah, just like, don't worry about the money. Don't just do something that you like, and eventually some, things will come out of it, and they did, it was a snowball effect. And, I was just trading, my energy for, two people, for I guess a good place, and people start seeing changes in their life. And yeah, I don't know, it worked out.
And common sense is not always common practice, right? Like do what you love. Like, and we were just talking about before, it's difficult for people to find their groove and find their niche, but something that you're really, really passionate about and something you talk about in your platform is this idea of both physical and mental health. And you're a really big advocate for mental health. I think it's like a lot of why we connected, a lot of shared passion for that space. What does that look like for you? Like, you have this quote on your LinkedIn. Actually, I want to read this.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear the story behind it. But you say, I believe fitness is a tool for mental health, for mental strength, which is the foundation of healthy well-being. Being physically strong is one thing, but being able to be mentally strong is another ballgame. And then you share a lot about your dad and everything that happened there. Like, I'd love you to share that story because it's so powerful. And I honestly think it's like a lot of what shaped you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So mental health, I'm a huge advocate because of that story. So, just want to say that, but us as like a Western culture, we tend to separate mental and physical health, put them in two categories when they really should work together as one. And we're like one of the only like cultures, and I say Western, like, I don't know, I feel like the US, they just separate it, like go do meditation or go work out, but you can kind of do it all at once, if that makes sense. That's how I look at climbing. It's like, it's one, it's your kind of meditating plus training, and your body all comes together to like push you through to get to the top of a mountain or something. Right. But that was nuts. That was the craziest curveball of my whole life for sure. But also helped set me up for, for life. But yeah, I was 16 years old. It was July 9th, 2008. And my dad threw me this awesome birthday party. It was like really amazing. I turned 16 and like everything's good. He was like happy. Like I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. My parents were going through a divorce, but like the normal stuff. And he never really spoke about anything. I would try to talk to him, but everything's fine. Right. And so on my 16th birthday, about 9 days later, he dropped me off at driver's ed. He went into court for like the divorce stuff. And then when I come out of driver's ed, I'm like hitting him up. I'm like, hey, where are you? And then my best friend's mom picked me up, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, all right. And I get in the car, start driving away, and she's like, your dad just passed away. And I was like, oh my God. I was like start freaking out. I probably didn't say, oh my God. I was probably just like, what the fuck? And I was like, there's no way this is real. I'm like calling him. And then, I was just like so in shock. I didn't really know what to do. And then on I'm like, what happened? And she's like, he jumped in front of a truck on the highway. And I'm like, like, what the fuck? And so still like, I'm in shock. And I just remember like having to tell all my sisters that. I have 4 sisters. And that was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Cause, you know, one of my sisters was at camp, at the time, summer camp. And I remember going to, you know, my cousin drove me to her camp. And I'm like, hey, I have to come talk to you. Something's happened. And I get there and it's like late at night. And I just remember like me telling her and she just like drops to her knees. And I'm like that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And then I remember at the funeral, I like look over at my little sister and she's just like, and she's a mess. And I'm like, oh my God, like she's not going to have a dad to grow up with. Right. And so ever since then, I wasn't into like, you know, any like super hardcore drugs or like, I wasn't really causing ruckus. I was more, when that happened, I was just like, I don't have any boundaries. I can't live life with boundaries. I don't want people really telling me what to do. I can do what I want. And yeah, like I ended up I didn't get along with my mom that much. So I ended up going to live with my friend, then got kicked out of their house and then went to another friend, got kicked out of that house. And it wasn't even because I was bad. I just like really I just live by my own rules, I guess. Ended up getting sent to military academy and then almost got kicked out of there. Ended up going to like 5 high schools. So I don't know. I just don't like boundaries. Right. But I never really spoke about it. I remember I was at military academy and this Green Beret that was training us was like, he sat me down and he said, it happens to people. Get over it. He's like, don't talk about it. He's like, just fucking get over it. And I'm like, got it. And that probably wasn't the right advice. And so I didn't really talk about it. And I was like, everyone goes through this, like whatever. And so I didn't talk about it for maybe 8 years. And like people would ask like, oh, were you going for Thanksgiving or whatever? Like, oh, what'd your dad do? And I would just be like, oh, he passed away. Never talking about it. And that was like, that started building up. I didn't realize it, but it was impacting the way I would just go about life, whether the way I was talking to people, whether it was the way I was acting, not in like a ludicrous manner, just more in like I don't know, just like no boundaries, like whatever. And then it got to the point where my friend, one of my close friends, was like, dude, you need to go talk to someone. He's like, you got to go talk to this guy. And so I talked to this guy and he's like, dude, just tell me your story. And I told this same story that I just told you to him. That was like the first time I really told it. This might be the second or third. And I told him and I just started bawling, like crying like so much. And in that exact moment, I remember just sitting across from him and my whole body just felt way lighter. I was just like, oh, like I've never felt so good in my whole life. I just felt so light. And yeah, from then on, I'm like, people need to talk about their fucking problems. Like you have to do it. You can't go around and just bottle things up because your backpack, this invisible backpack that you're carrying your whole life, just keeps filling up and it just keeps getting heavier and heavier. And you need to let it out. You need to talk about things. And so, yeah, then I'm like, how can I bring awareness? I have this microphone, with social media and I can let the world know about some stuff. Like, how can I bring as much attention as possible to that? And I was like, let me do something that people seem as impossible and try to do it. And that's where the bear crawl came in.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing the story, because just as equally as powerful as you talking about it, to release that from your own body so that it doesn't manifest in disease or be carried on. It's equally as important to share that stuff because it's so powerful for so many people. And I have several friends that went through something like almost identical, a little bit different, like in age, but them sharing their story with other people, you don't know how many people it affects, and you could be saving someone's life by just sharing it. So it's really powerful. And what you did with this experience is so inspiring. And I think the first time I heard about you was someone had shared, hey, this guy just bear crawled a marathon. And I was like, I didn't really quite understand. I was like, oh, did I read that right? Did I understand that? So how and why did you decide to bear crawl a marathon? And can you talk a lot about like the work you do with FitOps and stuff? 'Cause it's so cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, the why is definitely because I wanted to bring awareness to mental health and suicide prevention mainly. And then the how is you just get up and do it. You just get up and you just bear crawl. Like just like anything. You want to run a marathon, go run. You want to go climb a mountain, go to a mountain and start climbing the mountain. It's just have to go and
why bear
physically
crawl?
show
Like
up.
I
think bear crawl is just like the hardest and most it just pisses people off. It's just like, yo, go bear crawl 10 yards.
I hated doing it when I worked.
Fun.
Yeah.
So think about something so miserable. Now you're doing it for 26 miles, 42 kilometers. How are you going to be on your hands and feet for that long? Your wrists are going to snap. Your people are like, your back's going to hurt. It's all your quads, you know, it's a lot of shoulders, but it's quads, and it's just like reformulating your body to, you know, to be in that position and go. So I trained for like 12 months. I would wake up every morning, literally at 2 a.m. I would wake up at 2 a.m. and go to the field 3 a.m. ish, 2:33, and I would just bear crawl around for hours, just listen to podcasts.
By yourself?
By myself, like pitch dark, cold, rain, whatever it was. I would just wake up and go. If I was so sore I couldn't even like move, then I would just like sauna, rest, recover, and then do it again and just break my body down at like weekly, just break it down to the point where you're just like walking around and you're just so achy, getting super, super achy. And I would just repeat it and then just try to figure it out on the day of. And then they canceled the New York City Marathon because of COVID. And I was like, I'm still doing it. And that brought more attention to it. So that was great. Not COVID, but the other part. And then, I would just wake up and do it. Then it came to the day of. I started in Brooklyn and bear crawled all around New York City, over the Brooklyn Bridge, up Park Avenue, all the way to Harlem, back down. And did 26.2 miles in 20 hours, 48 minutes. Yeah, went through the night. It was crazy.
And that's what, when I tell people that story, and I'm sure when you say it, their response is, that's crazy. Like, that's insane. And it's like the 4-minute mile story. Like, you know, the Roger Bannister.
Yeah.
Like, 1956, I think.
Yep.
Previously humans.
And they're like, no way you can do this. Like,
yeah, but it's like, it's a psychological imposed boundary.
100%.
That we have. And I think that, that story is exactly kind of what you're doing with your life. You're continuing to reinvent these 4-minute miles.
Yeah.
And, it's not only did you do this, you bear crawled this marathon, and also the part you didn't mention is it raised money for FitOps, right?
Yeah, the FitOps. Sorry. The FitOps part. So I got introduced to this foundation through my buddy Matt. And I went to a camp, and the story I just gave about my father, I mean, people go through that, right? But, these veterans specifically, they're telling some outrageous stories of things that they've gone through, and they're crying and they're letting it go. And I'm like, I want to help. Like, more people need to do this to help their mental health. Because I saw a lot of what my dad was going through with these people, but then they would talk about their issues, and then they would start, bawling their eyes out. And then they're like, wow, I feel better. Like, the system that FitOps had was working, right? So I'm like, I want to raise money for this. And so, we ended up raising $500,000 for FitOps Foundation that day. And we got 500 million views on like the whole bear crawl situation. It was crazy. It was like everyone was watching. It was live streamed everywhere. There was press. It was great for them. And FitOps has recently bought 500 acres for their veterans now. And they do a camp where, don't quote me, but I think it's either 5,000 or 10,000 a year that they're going to be helping. So it's that foundation's great,
It's amazing. And then not only so did you bear crawled this marathon, now you've created a new 4-minute mile situation for yourself, which is so cool. And the last time I talked to you, you were in a wine bath in Argentina post this experience. Can you talk about what you're doing, why you chose to climb all these mountains, and what the actual like goal is, and all the metrics around it.
Yeah. I think you have like these goals in life, and you want to do something, but then you might get to your goal and you think, okay, now I just have to stop. Like, that's not the point. You get to your goal, then do something again. Keep leveling yourself up, whether it's from a grit level or an education level or whatever it is. Like, that's what life's about. Like, keep learning, keep teaching yourself things. And I think I kind of made my mark with the whole mental health, suicide prevention. I'm like, okay, if I can help people do that, great. But now what's the next step for those people? Now go do something. And then there's the question of, well, how do I do it? Well, I'll show you. Just fucking do it. Just figure it out. You have to, and I've said this before, just like educate yourself a little bit, strategize a little bit, and then execute and show up and do it. And so my concept is, I've never climbed a mountain in my life, ever. I'm not a mountaineer. I didn't grow up climbing. I grew up playing sports on a farm in New Hampshire with horses. Like, I'm not a climber. And so I'm like, I'm going to prove that a person with zero experience can go and climb the highest point of every continent in the world and go to the South Pole and the North Pole. And so that's what I'm doing. And so I remember it was last February, I went to Mount Rainier, which is, considered a somewhat difficult technical mountain. And I was like, this is going to be my practice. Kind of like the bear crawl. When I decided I was going to do it, I went out and bear crawled a mile. I'm like, let me throw myself into the wolves a little bit. I'm going to go climb Mount Rainier. I bought all the equipment at the bottom of the mountain, not broken in or anything. Ended up summiting, and that was just brutal. Took a couple days. And then we're just off to the races. So now Kilimanjaro, that's a walk in the park. Don't underestimate it though. I mean, the last days, whatever. Not technical. And then Aconcagua, highest point in South America, about 22,000, I think 800 feet. Just completed that in Argentina. And again, the concept is just go figure it out. And I ran into so many obstacles in Aconcagua, in Argentina specifically.
For people, go if you're interested in this, go watch. If you should, I don't know if you have a story recap on your Instagram yet, but I mean, I feel like it was every day there was something else that went wrong. But you're putting out all this, positive messaging around, like, you were not going to leave the continent until you climb the mountain, like, at all costs. And they wanted to force me not to climb it. I tested positive for COVID the second day I was in Argentina, and they want you to do a 14-day quarantine. But then I got tested again and I was negative. And so my concept is, okay, it was clearly a false positive, right? And so I snuck out of the hotel and I'm like, I'm not staying here for 14 days. I hit up my new guide and I'm like, I'm not leaving Argentina until I climb this mountain. I was like, let me know where I should go. He's like, well, you can't go to any hotels because the positive COVID test that you had yesterday has, like, everyone knows about it. I'm like, fuck. Okay. I'm like, well, can I just go to the mountain? He's like, the mountain will let you on because they also have it. I'm like, okay. Where can I go? He's like, maybe this hostel. And I'm like, where's that? It's 4 hours away. He's like, go there. It's a little higher altitude. Maybe you can, like, acclimate there while we try to figure out this situation. So I go there for a couple of days. He's like, you need to acclimate more. Maybe go to a higher ridge. And so I went to a higher ridge by myself with this tent. And I'm like, just trying to figure it out. I don't even know if I'm going to be climbing the mountain, but I want to set myself up so if I do have the opportunity to, at least I'm a little acclimated and I can climb it. He hits me up and he's like, okay, I think we have a solution. This is like 4 days. I was all by myself on that mountain. I go back down to the hostel. And the new guide, this guy Nims, he picks me up at the hostel, who's like, I couldn't have a better person. Like, it was like a gift from God that he showed up. I couldn't have had a better person bring me up. And the problem was when we got to the mountain, then weather struck and they're like, we have to leave now or we're stuck on the mountain for another 8 days. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not acclimated that well. Like, everyone else has already gone up to Camp 2 and acclimated. I'm like pretty new to this mountain. So normally you're supposed to acclimate on this mountain for like 12 to 15 days.
like in stages, go to camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, and then summit.
And then, but you ended up climbing it in 24 hours, which is crazy. And I think that, I mean, again, when I heard that, I was like, hey, I'm not shocked, but it's this 4-minute mile mentality. And I think that everything, all of these pieces of your story, like it all makes sense, but it's what you did with it that's so powerful. And it's why a lot of people are looking to you, like not only for fitness advice, but also mental health advice, and like the dedication and the mindset you had to like, I'm going to climb the mountain in 24 hours is I think what people are looking to you for. And so, I kind of want to shift the conversation to our favorite topic, which is mushrooms.
Yeah.
And, but just to close out.
Well, I think it's good with mindset though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all related.
It's all related. I was taking mushrooms the entire time on the mountain.
Okay. So, I guess let's start there, because when we met for the first time in person in New York, you told me the best story with your introduction to psilocybin, and you hadn't used it or worked with it to this point in your life. And so it's a fairly recent thing for you, but you're such an advocate now for microdosing, for mushrooms. And I'd love you to share like, high level of that story. And then let's talk about microdosing.
Yeah. So I was in Tulum, Mexico, for the month of January last year. And I don't know, I went to this, I don't even know what they call it. It was like a journey, they call it. And you do like breath work in the water, then you go and microdose. And I was like, this is cool. I feel amazing. Like they told you to go into this guy, he's like, go into the microdosing with an idea in your head, something that you want to fix. And so I went in with a couple ideas, and I didn't understand going deep into your mind. I didn't know what that meant, but once you're like taking mushrooms, you kind of understand, like kind of connecting the dots. You just go deep, and start thinking of all these different solutions, not just like 4 solutions maybe that you normally would, but now 50 solutions. Now I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Start putting puzzle pieces together. And then he's like, do you want to go deeper? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, well, the Mayans just got here. And I'm like, dude, we're in 2021. What are you talking about? The Mayans? Like I'm so uneducated. I'm like, Mayans? Like, what do you mean? And like,
I wish there was some video content of this.
They show up and like they're modern day Mayans. They're not what you would think. They're not, they're not like carrying spears or anything. They're they have like t-shirts on, and they're like, you want to try the frog venom? I'm like, yes. And so they bring me down to the beach, and honestly, I couldn't have had a better like situation. Like you can't do frog venom at like a bar in New York City. Like I don't know, maybe people do, but you'd be tripping out. There's no way. But we did it, and they like sit me down. They're like, thank you so much for doing this. I'm like, holy shit, I'm about to get sacrificed right now. Like everything, I'm all by myself. I don't know anyone here.
That's full trust. And which is,
full trust.
Probably not what we recommend people doing for their first time doing psychedelics, but this is such a good story.
No boundaries.
So no boundaries.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever.
It's very on brand for you.
Yeah, and so I smoked the frog venom and go so deep into my head for like 30 minutes. And then I just remember, I'm like, the psychedelics are very interesting. It was DMT, right? And so I was like, psychedelics are really interesting. I just learned the word psilocybin. I'm like, how do you even spell that? There's a P in it. What? Like so confused. And then I hit up Ryan, my lawyer, and I'm like, CPG King, by the way, Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan Lewandin.
Yeah, shout out to Ryan Lewandin. I was like, I need to get involved with the company. And that's where I met you. And yeah.
So it's such a good story. I love it. And I think what's even more interesting is, you have this platform, you have 500-ish thousand followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And part of what I'm really passionate about, part of the reason why we started the podcast is to help people come and share their stories to help destigmatize psychedelics. But anytime you're stepping out of the conformity of the collective pulling yourself into an arena that is still very stigmatized, like psychedelics are, psilocybin is still a Schedule I substance. It's still illegal, and it's changing, right? It's being decriminalized locally all across the United States, and it's being legalized for medicinal use in certain states, like Oregon being the first one that has done that. But
when I found out that it was illegal, I'm like, how is how is mushrooms illegal? I'm like, alcohol should be illegal then. Like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, I feel amazing on it.
Yeah.
I'm not like hurting anyone. I'm not doing anything crazy. I didn't even have a hangover. I'm not addicted to it. It's like, when I found out that it's considered in the same category as like cocaine.
Yeah,
right?
Meth. Yeah, it's.
I'm like, this doesn't even make sense.
With the most extreme drugs. So that's what Schedule 1 is. And part of what's happening right now with public policy is exciting because that's working to change. But microdosing in particular, it's like why we, I've told you a little bit about the nonprofit that we're starting to just focus on education and advocacy, because right now that doesn't have a pathway to legalization. But if people come out, more often and share their stories, which people are doing, like really, powerful, influential people are coming out and sharing how powerful microdosing has been for their mental health. And one of the things I want to, hear from you about is it's not just for clinical outcomes like anxiety, depression. It's also for non-clinical outcomes like focus, creativity, athletic performance, specifically
massively,
with you.
Yeah.
If you combine, psilocybin with cordyceps and lion's mane, which are two really powerful functional mushrooms, it's a game changer. And I would love to hear just kind of how you've incorporated microdosing into your life and why you're a big proponent of sharing it on social.
Yeah. I didn't understand what microdosing mean. I only thought like macrodosing. You're like, ooh, I want to feel good. Microdosing is really interesting to me personally because it's such a small dosage of mushrooms where you're not tripping. You're not like, whoa, I see all these different colors. Everything's just like a little bit brighter. Everything's more creative. It's that same thing where I'm like, oh, you go deep in your mind, but you're not going deep really anymore. It's more just they come to you quickly, like just ideas, creativity. And I just love the way how positive I feel on it. Like when I take a mushroom in the morning, like I take about like 0.25 in the morning before I go work out.
Of psilocybin.
Yeah, psilocybin. Like 20 minutes, I feel amazing. I'm like energy. I'm awake. I'm thinking of new business ideas. I'm organizing things. I feel more focused. It's just amazing. And then I might do a pick me up, maybe at like 2, but usually not. Like it lasts all day. Like I feel just so good. And yeah, when I was on the mountain, I mean, I didn't sleep for 41 hours on Aconcagua. Like by the time we woke up to the time we ended up getting back down, it was 41 hours. And I probably took 10 capsules throughout that. And I was like, they were good pick-me-ups. Like you get energy, you get awake. And by the way, yeah, you're right. Like there's a lot of people that don't speak about it. And I'm so excited. And I'm not going to drop names, but there's like massive billionaires I know that all take mushrooms. Like there's some very, very successful people that have a well-balanced life, that are financially successful, that are very healthy, that have a great family, that crush life, that take mushrooms every day. And I'm obviously not going to speak names, but like when it becomes legal, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised on how many people actually do mushrooms. They just make everything better.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's
mushrooms everywhere.
Mushrooms everywhere. For people that are listening, we're in my not watching the video. We're in my podcast set, and there's mushroom decorations literally all around us.
I get why you're obsessed with them. Like I'm just as obsessed with them.
Well, and it's like fungi, right? As a kingdom, which is it's its entirely own kingdom. It's inclusive. It has functional mushrooms, culinary mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. So they're all part of the same kingdom. And part of the reason, like we have a fully functional legal mushroom company, Supermush, and Multiverse. The marketplace is also fully functional and legal, but really passionate about psilocybin and having conversations like these because people do need to come out of the psychedelic closet, so to speak. And it's happening, but it's only going to happen if the right people are sharing on their platforms. Like you said, you have a microphone, and I think if you look at even why psychedelics have made it to this point, it's because people like Tim Ferriss, Michael Pollan started coming out and publicly supporting this stuff because they're massive influences in other areas, business and startups and medical field. So they've built this audience in a completely other world in a very similar way. You've built this audience in
Yeah.
in fitness and mental health and all of these things. And people look to you as a thought leader in those areas and like, well, if Devon is also incorporating mushrooms as a part of his wellness routine, that is something that I could look at as well. And it's not like the whole world needs to take mushrooms, right?
Right.
But it is a tool, just as any of these other things
100%.
are a tool.
And it's a natural tool. It's growing out of the earth. It's a natural. I look at it, I don't even call it like a drug or it's like a sacred plant.
It is. It's
It's a sacred plant. And from a mental health perspective, I wish my dad would have taken mushrooms. Like, I really think that he would, like, it would have changed some major outcomes, 100%. I think I see people that have been on the verge of taking their life, and then I see them take mushrooms, and they're a whole new person.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's also probably why I'm such an advocate on it. I'm like, wow, like, this actually really works, you know? My mom takes mushrooms. Like, I don't know. Like, I know so many people that take mushrooms now, but yeah, I wish it was more, I wish it was more public. And look, no boundaries. I don't give a fuck. Like, I take mushrooms. Like, come arrest me. Like, you know, like, what are we talking about? It doesn't even make sense.
I know. And it's funny because we do live in a world where like the public policy is still catching up to all of these things that we're talking about. So I'm excited because of conversations like these to hopefully help shift the system that we need to still live inside of. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But okay, I have a few more questions for you.
Yeah, go.
One of the things you said when we talked on the phone a few months ago was this idea of like lifespan versus health span. And I loved that because I do think that's really how you live. You know, it really is about the life in your years, like that you embody that.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? And like on a larger level, like what is the vision for your life?
I think I guess the first one, health span. Yeah, I mean, so many people talk, well, how long are you going to live? And then you're just thinking of a clock. You're like, okay, I'm going to live till 90. I have 70 years left or whatever it is. You're just thinking of a clock rather than how great can I live, right? How can I go to bed every night knowing, holy shit, that felt like a week in one day. Like, how can you do that? And so I just jam everything packed, but also you need the balance, right? So it's like, how can you live this healthy, packed life? Because the worst thing I can ever think about is when I'm 70, 80, 90, hopefully 100. And I look back and I'm like, shit, I wish I would have done that. I can't, that's like my biggest nightmare. And so if I ever have an opportunity to do anything, I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. I'm very open-minded. I'm very spontaneous. I'm very willing to just say, yeah, let's try it out. Let's rock. Because whose is it hurt? Who's it? You know, if it's not hurting anyone, if it's not, you know, impacting anyone in a negative manner, like, do it. Like, what if it's about the money? Spend the money. Like, you're not taking that with you. You know, like, just go. Just fucking go live. Go have a good time. Go experience as much as possible. Go talk to people. Go. That's what I think health span is, like, just living a happy, healthy, like, fully packed life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's what I try to do every day. And then the second question was, what was it again?
Just what's the vision? You know, like if everything you want comes true in the next like 5 years or even further than that, like, what is the vision of what you're building? I want to copy and paste my energy and everyone else. Like, that's like, if I can do that in any way, whether it's in events, whether it's in products that we sell, whatever it is, I just know the energy I have is like, I don't see it in a lot of people. And I don't mean to like pat myself on the back or anything. I'm just like, fuck, why is this person so fucking depressed all the time? Like, why aren't they happy? Like, how can we help them? How can we fix that? Like, I hate seeing unhappy people. Like, I really want to help. Like, I wish everyone, you know, was happier and healthier and more positive and just like, and experiencing what I'm experiencing right now. Cause I love life. I love waking up. I'm like, I'm excited to jump out of bed. If my eyes even wake up a little bit, I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm not like, oh, let's go. Fuck. Give me another hour. I'm like, all right, what can we do today? I'm like a puppy dog. I'm like, let's go. And I just wish more people had that because there's so much to life and this world is massive. The world is so fucking big. I don't even think people understand it. Like I took over 100 flights last year and I still haven't even like touched the surface of what's out there in the world. There's still thousands of places that I still want to go. And
yeah, like I want more people to experience that. Maybe they don't want to. That's cool too. But I think it's a good life. So I don't know that. I guess that's my ultimate goal.
No, it's a great answer. Okay, so if this is not going to be all encompassing, but if you had to give people that are listening, people that are like, holy shit, I want Devon's energy, like 3 tips for what do you do every day?
I think you have to sweat every day. Like sweat has to come out of your pores. If you have a tough time sweating, I get it. But like try to sweat. Like really try to like put your body through something where it's like, okay, I'm sweating now. And then add like challenges to your life, meaning put yourself in very uncomfortable positions that you're not normally used to. Because that's just going to make everything else in life a walk in the park. Climbing these mountains and putting myself through it, or bear crawling a marathon, that's a type 3 fun. Like that was not fun. And I still don't think it's fun. Like it was a great cause, but that sucked. That was not fun. But that also makes everything else, like every time I go to the gym, talking to people, going through maybe like bad, business endeavors, it's laughable now. Cause I'm like, that was whatever. Like my wrists were almost snapping, right? Like so I think add, some type of grit challenge to your life. And then number 3, I would say, God, I'm only limited to 3. There's so many. No, I think number 3 is try to put yourself in other people's shoes if you can, and like don't assume, because assuming things without knowing is just going to eat you alive. It's like I could think of like 100 really terrible outcomes of a business endeavor or what someone's doing, unless I sit down with them and actually talk to them. Like you don't know, right? Like don't fucking assume things, because it's just not healthy for your brain. Or if you have, I use this thing where if I ever have like, maybe employees or people I work with where I just feel the frustration or I feel the anxiety or I feel, tension in the air, I call it let's put it out in the air. And we'll sit down like this. I'll be like, what? Honest, no judgment. Tell me what you think. And some people are like, you're a fucking asshole. I'm like, you're right. I'm so sorry. Like, let's make up. And it's done, right? But like, if like I'm assuming I'm like, this person hates me or they're fine. Like, I'm just eating myself alive. Like, just put it out in the air and just be honest with it, right? So don't assume. That's number 3.
Okay, those are great. I'm listening to those myself. Those are really good lessons. And I love, something that we've talked about before is when you go through challenging experiences, really challenging experience, it is like your ninja training, so that when stuff happens that is not even I had a really challenging experience last year with a situation I went through, but now when things go wrong or there's issues that come up, it is like cake. Me and my co-founder are just like, it is like a walk, a walk in the park in comparison.
Yeah, even like, with business, right? Like imagine the worst thing that's happened with Supermush or Multiverse, right? Yep. And now like, now you go through something now and now it's whatever. It's, I know I kind of just repeated that, but it's like so fucking true. It's like, I get it.
and it gives you, and it's perspective on everything,
it has to give perspective.
And you don't also, you don't know anything. One of my favorite things to think about is the fact that you don't know anything about people, like myself included, until you see them go through challenging situations. Like it doesn't mean anything how someone acts when things are good. It's like when things are challenging, like how does someone show up? You see true colors. Yeah. And you see your own true colors, and then you see people respond, and it is like a flashlight into everyone's soul, you know? I agree. So I'm listening to those words of wisdom from you, because that's really important. Okay. A few last questions for you. Just generally, what is next for you? DML, what are you excited about in the next 6 months?
Yeah. I just bought a ranch in Texas with my buddy Jimmy DeSico. Super coffee shout out. Let's go. I'm excited to, kind of transition down there a little bit more. Maybe grow some mushrooms. Definitely putting some bees on the property. So that's really exciting, like from a personal perspective. Climbing. I'm climbing Elbrus in August.
Which is where?
Highest point in Russia.
Okay.
That's a quick 7-day climb. Easy breezy. And then I go to Antarctica December 4th to climb the highest point in Antarctica, which is Vinson.
Okay.
And then I cross country ski to the South Pole.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I go to Mount Everest April 25th for a 20-day climb. It's normally 60, but I want to get in and out. So I'll go to Peru prior to acclimate and then go to the mountain and rip it. So that's like, I guess, from an adventure. And then from a business side, we have some awesome stakes in some really awesome companies. And I know they're on the verge of some acquisitions. So that's going to be exciting. And I want to take that and probably do another fund and help more brands and help more people and just expand more. Maybe buy another ranch, do more mushrooms. I don't know, help more people. Like, I just think like this ranch concept is, there's no boundaries. It's your land. You can do whatever the fuck you want. So like, if I want to bring 1,000 people there to do some awesome event, positive energy, whatever, like you can do that. And like, who's going to stop you? You know, the problem you don't have it is like, now you have to go with regulations and this and that. Like, I just hate boundaries. I can't deal with boundaries. And it's different. It's not like people tell me what to do. It's just boundaries. It's like, just having limits. Like no one wants limits.
So in summary, the next 6 months is continuing to just be limitless and climb everything.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So last question for you. And then I want to know where people can find you. What is the single most important lesson that mushrooms have taught you?
Happiness is like the key for sure. Like happiness over everything.
Mm.
Yeah. Because your body within is just so happy when you do, you know, and look, how many psychedelic or psilocybin mushrooms are there? 13?
There's so many strains.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
there is.
Yeah,
okay. I thought there was like 13 like specific.
The ones that are most known about,
okay,
but yeah, there's a bazillion.
I feel, when you take mushrooms, you're just happy. Like, and I've seen people take mushrooms that, oh my God, do I feel so good.
Right.
And so, that's probably what I've single-handedly learned the most. And just happiness is key.
And it's not a silver bullet is the thing that I'll add, because a lot of people, there are people that have negative experiences with mushrooms, but like by and large, so many people, like myself included, I have found such profound insights from them.
Yeah.
And I think that you sharing how impactful they've been for your life is going to be so impactful for so many people that are maybe looking to explore and just become more educated on the subject.
I love it. Yeah, I think, mushrooms are the future.
Mushrooms are the future.
I mean, they're happening now, and they go back to like cavemen, but they're also the future.
They're also the future. Okay, I love this conversation. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can follow us, the DML group. You can see the businesses we're involved in, including Multiverse, Supermush, and Devon Levesque on social, LinkedIn, Devon Levesque, YouTube. We just started, but that's also there. Some fun videos, like I meet the president, climbing mountains, Odell Beckham. Like we just have some epic people on our YouTube. So go check out those videos. And find me at Multiverse. I'm here to stay.
Here to stay. He's literally going to live on my couch.
Yeah, I'm down.
Just go in between climbing the mountains.
There's mushrooms growing out of the couch.
There's
literally mushrooms growing out of the couch. If you're not, there's literally.
For people listening, there's mushrooms on my couch as well.
It's crazy. It's good. I love it.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on. Honored to know you, and I can't wait to support you and be part of your journey in all the ways.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Right back at you. Much love.
Much love.
Thanks for diving into the multiverse with us. If you're interested in being a future guest on the show, sponsorship, partnership, or you're just mushroom curious, we're always looking to expand our mycelium network. Find us on Instagram at Multiverse or online at yourmultiverse.com. See you next week.